Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to the GSMC Football Podcast Patreon exclusive content episode. I am your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and for one final time, it is once again great to have you guys here on this Football Friday. So, obviously, today did not go how I anticipated it was going to go. Obviously, because I mentioned it, several times now. Between both live streams and both Patreon episodes, not having sound for basically almost the whole show while I was recording the football podcast. I kind of had to rearrange how I was doing things. I mean, really, pretty much finished right before I was going to do the baseball podcast. When I had to redo everything. And then I just recorded the baseball Patreon, and now we're doing the football one. So this is the last time I will be recording for the week. Obviously, I got shorts coming out on YouTube, and I got to do a lot of editing and stuff. And I got to watch my reaction to realizing that I didn't have any audio. So that was fun to watch my reaction to that. But yeah, we're finally at the end of the day. Pretty much 3+ hours of streaming. So basically did like a actual how long some radio shows are. So but talking about two sports that I love, of course. But yeah, so obviously with the football side of things, we recapped last night's game between the Broncos and the Chiefs. We also previewed the big game between the Bucs and the Lions, and then we previewed the rest of the games for this weekend. So, and I also did my picks for that as well. So, that was pretty much how the show went. Obviously, some big games this weekend, including the Bucs and the Lions, like I said. Another good game is the Bengals and the Seahawks. That's a good game. But other than that, there's not really that many enticing matchups this weekend. The primetime games. I mean, the Monday night game should be good. The Sunday night game, I mean, I don't really have to explain myself again, but Giants and Bills, not really looking forward to having to watch that, especially now with Daniel Jones, being out most likely. Tyrod Taylor getting the start. I'm not looking forward to that at all. I mean that, and listen again, this is after the Bills, coming off of a bad loss against the Jaguars in London. So Now they're playing the Giants. I mean, that's, got to throw a life preserver out to the Giants. I mean, they're in shark-infested waters right now. Yeah, and believe me, I mean, especially the offensive line is basically like a deflated raft. I mean, there's holes in everything. It's just slowly sinking into the ocean. I mean, I just feel bad for Tyrod Taylor. I know he's happy that he's going to get a chance to start, but why? I mean, you're starting behind an offensive line that's not going to be able to protect you. So I worry about him. I don't know if Saquon Barkley's coming back this week, so we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I haven't really looked on Sleeper. Let's see. Actually, we could check right now. We'll do that. Because I have Barkley in some of my fantasy leagues. So let's see. It's still listed as questionable. There's no updates yet. So I guess, as we progress throughout the day, we will get more information there. Actually, I just checked on Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a full go for Week 6, so that's good. So we'll transition back into the Lions and the Bucs. I said, listen, if Mike Evans doesn't play, I'd probably switch my pick and go with the Lions. But Mike Evans is playing. All right, I'm going to keep the Bucs. I don't know. I feel like the Bucs have a better chance to win this game as opposed to when they were going up against the Eagles. I don't know. I just think the Lions, they're more of a beatable team than the Eagles were in the matchup they had a couple weeks ago. Because also, let's not forget, Seattle went in there and, they won that overtime thriller. I think the final score was like 37-31, something like that. So you could put up points against this offense, So, and again, forgive me for the background noise. Again, my neighbors are getting some work done in their house, so, that's always good. Hopefully, that eventually stops. But there's always work being done. Come on. Like, the other thing, too, is road work. There is always road work being done wherever I'm going. And it just never stops. And it's an inconvenience to us all. But you know what? It has to get done, so you got to respect it. So, but as much as it's a pain. But, yeah, with the Bucs and the Lions, I think the Bucs can move the ball against this Lions offense. The Lions, they've looked good the last couple weeks offensively, against the Panthers and against the Packers as well. They're a really good team. I really do look at them as being an NFC contender. Obviously, they're a notch below the Eagles and the Niners. Well, they're like several notches behind the Niners. The Niners are up on everybody. But I look at them as the third best team in the NFC. I don't really trust the Cowboys right now. And you know what? Let's see what the Bucs can do against them. If the Bucs lose a close game, the Bucs are probably below them. Well, the Bucs are below them right now. Because after that, the Saints, offensively, they haven't really looked that good. The Cowboys, obviously, they're frauds. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But, it's a good game. I'm happy that they're both doing well, for Baker Mayfield's sake and also, the Lions, the culture that they're building there. Dan Campbell, I'm a Dan Campbell guy, and I'm happy that he's doing well because, he almost got fired. And this is like the third time I'm saying this between, the first time I was streaming the podcast to the rebroadcast of it to now saying it in the Patreon. So, yeah, they're going to win the NFC North. So they're going to host a playoff game. So I think they at least, right now, they get to the divisional round. It all depends on who they play. Yeah, I know I'm making way too early predictions right now. But, because you don't even know who they're playing. And honestly, you don't want to rush the playoffs because then the season's going to be over. I don't want the season to be over yet. So, but yeah. So we'll see what happens. That's a big game, and looking forward to watching it. The game that I wasn't looking forward to watching, well, it's obviously the Sunday night game, but was last night's game. I had the Broncos covering the spread. They were getting 10.5 points. And I thought they could cover that number. And hey, at one point it looked like they were down 10-0. They were still covering, and then they let Butker kick a 60-yard field goal. Then it was 16-0. But then they got a late touchdown. They were only down 8, and I said, hey, maybe they'll backdoor it here. And then the Chiefs got into field goal range, and unlike what they did a couple weeks ago against the Jets, when Mahomes could have ran it in and they could have covered the spread, they kicked the field goal to cover the spread, and of course it's when I didn't pick them, and I ended up losing that game last night in my spread pool. And I said, look, I thought the Broncos could keep it close because the Chiefs offensively, they just haven't looked that good. Isaiah Pacheco's running the ball well. Mahomes is still having a good year. but something's off with them. And I think a lot of that has to do with Eric Bieniemy leaving, with the receiving core that they have right now. They don't really have like an alpha at receiver. Now Rashid Rice has been coming on, the last couple of weeks, so maybe he turns into a weapon for them. Obviously, a guy I didn't mention, they're looking to get Justin Ross, more involved. Although he didn't do anything yesterday, I don't think. Kadarius Toney, he got a touchdown, but I'm not really expecting much from him at this point. Valdez-Scantling, he's good for a catch here and there. Justin Watson, same thing, although he got hurt because Mahomes has a nice rapport with him with those big plays, but, he got hurt. Obviously, Travis Kelce's always going to be doing well because, he's the best tight end in the NFL right now. But something's off with the Chiefs. And obviously, they're kind of winning ugly right now, but you know what? As long as they're winning, that's all that matters. And, Mahomes hasn't had to play hero ball yet, although, he turned the ball over against the Jets a lot. So that's the interceptions are a concern. They definitely are a concern, going into, going the rest of the way here. But like I said, the defense, has been pretty good. And they got Chris Jones back, which is huge. So, if the offense could figure it out and they look like how they're supposed to on a daily basis, the Chiefs might find themselves once again in the Super Bowl. Right now, I would say not. They don't look like the best team right now. But the other thing, too, is, if home field has to go through Arrowhead, who's going to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead? I don't see Tua Tagovailoa doing it. Maybe the Bills or the Bengals. I don't see. Right now, those are the teams that I would say would probably knock off the Chiefs as those two teams. Is either the Bills or the Bengals right now. Right now, the Bengals are 2-3. So it's not like they're still trying to get themselves right. Obviously, they took a step in the right direction, but now they got a big game against Seattle. So we'll see how Burrow looks against Seattle. Does Chase have a nice encore performance? We'll have to wait and see. But that's probably like the second best game, I would say, going into the weekend. So, but for the Broncos, the team that the Chiefs played last night, it was basically a flip-flop because the offense has looked good. The defense has been horrible. Last night, offense was terrible. Defense was pretty good. They got the turnover off Mahomes. The Chiefs only scored one touchdown last night. Everything else was a Harrison Butker game, and Harrison Butker was good for me in fantasy, so that was big. But yeah, the Broncos just couldn't get anything going. Russell Wilson had 2 interceptions. It looked like they were trying to establish a running game yesterday, but they kind of had to abandon it when they were down. So, but yeah, now they're 1-5. Apparently, there's some rumblings that Russell Wilson could get benched, and they could start Jared Stidham. So it's a mess over there with the Broncos, and that's why I said it towards the end, Sean Payton might be a fraud. Or is a fraud, because he talked all that smack in the offseason, said how we do things differently here, bashed Nathaniel Hackett, and now look at it's getting worse and worse. Now your offense can't score. You gave up 70 points a couple weeks ago. What does that say about you? You don't have Drew Brees anymore with you. You don't have a division that was, weak a lot of years, and you were basically the favorites. Now it's different this time around. And now you're with a team that, is not very good. But the thing I still can't wrap my head around is the fact that how much of a step back the defense has taken. Because at least like last year, as bad as the Broncos were, their defense was respectable. Now all of a sudden, Sean Payton comes in, and the defense is terrible. What happened to this defense? It's it's concerning. Definitely is concerning. I listen, and they're starting to get rid of some guys. They released Frank Clark. They might trade their wide receivers. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But it's just amazing because the Broncos, they get Russell Wilson last year. You think they got their quarterback finally. These receivers are going to have somebody that can finally get them the ball. And they took an even bigger step back. I mean, they haven't beaten the Chiefs since Peyton Manning was their quarterback. They're on their way to being in last place again. I mean, where do they go from here? So it's not good right now in the Mile High City. And I feel bad for Broncos fans because they've had some rough years. They had a QB carousel, and it's just hasn't worked out for them. So, but yeah, Chiefs 5-1, Broncos 1-5. Yeah, like I said, there's really not a lot of enticing matchups this weekend. I mean, you got some divisional games. You got the you got the Colts and the Jags playing each other. Colts, they gave the Jags some problems in week 1. But you got Gardner Minshew playing a revenge game. I mean, technically the Sunday night game's also a revenge game. Tyrod Taylor, Brian Dable, Isaiah Hodgins. But not that nothing is really going to happen there. I mean, the Dolphins are playing the Panthers. Niners are playing the Browns without Deshaun Watson. P.J. Walker's going to start. I mean, the Jets-Eagles, I mean, could that be... I mean, it's got potential to be a good game because the Jets' defense could keep them in the game. And, if the Jets run the football well, and Zach Wilson plays a clean game, then maybe they got a shot. But I don't really know. I don't really see it. I mean, the Falcons and the Commanders... I mean, you got two second-year quarterbacks playing against each other. I mean, that could be an okay game, but I don't really expect it to be anything spectacular. Saints, Texans. I mean, listen, C.J. Stroud's got to get you excited. But the Saints, offensively, they've been kind of boring this year. They're still trying to find their identity, so we'll see. Derek Carr's trying to get more... there's still some growing pains with this offense. I know some people maybe are saying, is Derek Carr washed? Maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. I think the Saints are at least going to be a playoff team. I mean, probably one of the best games is on Monday, but I'm not going to talk about that really until we get to Monday. I mean, however, that is a Kellen Moore revenge game. Because he was the offensive coordinator previously for the Cowboys. So, and then also you got the Rams and the Cardinals. That's a divisional matchup too. Rams, I think, should get back on track. Cooper Kupp looked good his first game back. So, yeah, not a lot of great games this weekend. Nothing really that exciting. I mean, we'll see. I mean, there could be things that surprise us. We got the Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick game as well. So I guess that's something to look forward to. Maybe Jacoby Myers throws it to, somebody on the Patriots. Maybe he throws it to J.C. Jackson if he's playing. I don't know. And he takes it to the house, and the Patriots win that way. I don't. Still can't believe that happened. But he got different players now. I mean, Garoppolo's now the starter. Chandler Jones, like, he's got his off the field issues, and you hope that, you know, he gets the help that he needs with what's going on there. Yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots should win this game. I know as bad as they've been, I just, you know, I mean, Belichick losing to Josh McDaniels, although he did lose to Matt Patricia when they played each other back in 2018 against the Lions. So, you know, we'll see. I mean, well, and again, I mean, they lost to Josh McDaniels last year, but that was because Jacoby Myers just decided to throw the ball to nobody, to Chandler Jones, and he threw Mac Jones on the ground and scored a touchdown. So, I mean, and the Sunday night game just, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like I don't understand. They really could not flex out of that. Like, they should have flexed out of it weeks ago. But I think there's there's a rule with that. I don't know off the top of my head, but I don't know. It just, I mean, even before the season, I'm like, really? We got to play Buffalo on Sunday night in Buffalo? Really? I mean, could you imagine? Can you imagine what Diggs is going to do to that secondary? What that defensive line for the Bills is going to do to the Giants' offensive line? Because the Bills actually lead the league in sacks as a team. I think they have 21. I went over it, I think, yesterday. Or one of the previous shows. Is it yesterday or the day before? Yeah, they lead the league in sacks, right? Could you imagine how many sacks they're going to get on Sunday against the Giants? I mean, we might see Tommy DeVito on Sunday night. So I fear for Tyrod Taylor. I really do. I am afraid for his well-being in this game on Sunday, because that defense is going to annihilate that offensive line. Now, if Andrew Thomas does play in the game, you know, that's great, but yeah, I'm nervous. I am very nervous going into this game. Just from a human aspect. Like, I know the Giants aren't going to win, but I don't want to see these guys getting hurt because they have no offensive line protecting them. That's why they probably should hold out Barkley another game, because you really want him to come back against this defensive line with this offensive line that you got to run through. Yeah, no. I'd rather you hold out Barkley for another week. But, yeah, I mean, we're almost to the halfway point of the season. The trade deadline is towards the end of the month. So we'll see who gets moved. Obviously, the Broncos started making some moves. I mean, this team, I think, might go into like a full rebuild, maybe. Because, I mean, I mean, what happens with Russell Wilson? You know, and that's one thing that someone brought up last night in my sports chat. Is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer? And before he went to Denver, like, I would be like, yeah, absolutely. But I think these last 2 games, or these last 2 years rather, with the Broncos has really, like, it has done so much damage to his legacy. And the other thing too is, like, even with like, you know, former teammates coming out and talking about him, and like the Marshawn Lynch thing, if you saw on Shannon Sharp's you know, podcast, he like, you know, he talked about Russ and just said Russ was just a quarterback to me. You know, like, he wasn't like, they weren't really close. You know? So, yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson's just he's an interesting guy. And I really, like, I never really thought about it, because I was just like, you know, he's a great player, and, you know, I think he's respected around the league, it looks like it, but, yeah, behind closed doors, it's very different. You know? I mean, the Broncos country let's ride thing, like that was very cringy. Well, like watching the Mr. Unlimited video, like that was also rough to watch too. That was cringe as well. Yeah, I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, I still think he could play quarterback, but like he's got to be in like the right system. Because I thought he was going to come to Denver, and I thought Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy they would benefit from it, but they really haven't. It really hasn't worked out. And also you saw Steve Smith last night going off on Jerry Jeudy as well, calling him just a guy. Yeah, it's not good in Denver right now. Just isn't. And Russell Wilson right now, I mean, when it comes to being a Hall of Famer, I'm not so sure. I can't sit here and say that it's a lock. So, yeah, Denver's 1-5. They're not going anywhere, and they are on their way to having another really bad season. And Sean Payton, it doesn't look good for him right now. So. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Pretty much I finished a half hour later than what I was supposed to because if everything went right today, I would have been done by 2:15 Eastern time, but we had to extend it another half hour just because of what happened today on the live portion of this podcast. So hopefully going forward that doesn't happen again. Obviously I expect like my camera to do to glitch out at times. But that's like an easy fix because the backup camera is my laptop. But when you don't have sound, it's hard to correct that. Now it was a very simple fix, but shouldn't have happened, and that's on me, and I take responsibility for that. But you know what? We were still able to put out everything. Everything pretty much worked out. We just finished up, a half hour, later than we were supposed to. So, yeah, that's but that's pretty much it though. We'll be back again next week. We will be recapping all the games from this week, as well as the Monday night game between the Cowboys. Well, we'll preview that the Cowboys and the Chargers, and hopefully also my allergies, get better as well because now it's that time of the year, and these last couple of days have been kind of annoying when I'm like doing the show, and my allergies act up again. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it today when it comes to the Patreon exclusive content episode for the the football podcast. Sorry, but make sure to tune into the fantasy football podcast tonight for Austin. But yeah, that's all the time. Once again, that's all the time we have for today. I thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back again on Monday, recapping all the games and previewing the Monday night game as well. So until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will see you guys on Monday. Take care.